What is going on, everybody? My name is Jon Solo, and today we are talking Star Wars. The other day I was rewatching Return of the Jedi because I'm always watching at least one of the movies, and the final duel between Luke and Vader got me thinking. For those who don't remember, unlike their duel on Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back, this duel was far less one-sided. On Bespin, it was pretty much just Vader toying with Luke until he had him in a corner, whereas on the second Death Star, they were far more evenly matched until Luke eventually got the better of him. And even though I'm totally okay with that and have no problems with how the duel went down, if you want to be hypercritical, it doesn't really make sense that Luke won. And before you get mad at me, let me explain. There's only about 1 year between the duel on Bespin and the duel on the Death Star. Like I said, Vader was in total control pretty much the entire time during their first duel, but in the second duel, they go back and forth with who has the upper hand. This is in spite of the fact that at this point, Vader has had several decades of Jedi and Sith training, spends a good amount of his free time meditating, meaning he's developing an even deeper connection with the Force, and straight up just has more experience with lightsaber battles. The only disadvantage I can see Vader has would be that he's a biomechanical monstrosity, but we haven't seen his suit be much of a hindrance to his combat abilities in the past, so in my opinion, that one's debatable. When it comes to advantages for Luke, you could argue that he spent a year training with one of the greatest Jedi to ever live, but that's really the only advantage I can think of outside of the fact that maybe he was fighting for a cause he genuinely believed in and people he genuinely cared about. Looking at the duel objectively and realistically, it really seems like Vader should have won. So how is the fight so evenly matched, and how did Luke win in the end? To answer that, we need to look at the character of Vader as the person he once was, Anakin Skywalker. Anakin was a very emotional and sometimes impulsive person who developed very deep connections to those around him, his mother, Padme, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka Tano, to name a few. After he was manipulated by Palpatine, he lost everything that gave him an identity. The Jedi Order, his friends, his wife, and even his body. All he had left in the end was his new master, his connection to the Force, and the memories of his mistakes that turned him into Darth Vader and haunted him well into the next 20 plus years. During that time period, Anakin Skywalker was effectively dead.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Then I will avenge his death.
Palpatine is the only person in the entire Empire who knows the former identity of Darth Vader, and even when he brings that identity up to him, he does it in the third person.
I have no doubt this boy is the offspring of Anakin Skywalker.
He's acting like he's talking about someone who isn't even there, because technically he isn't. Before George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney, he made it very clear that Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader are two separate identities. And this is how Vader lives his life until that duel on Cloud City, hardly acknowledging his past at all until he reveals himself to be Luke's father. And as far as we know, he doesn't address it again until Luke brings it up on Endor. In this scene, it's Luke who brings up the relationship, referring to Vader as father. He insists that there's still good left in him, but Vader says it's too late for him to turn back.
It is too late for me, son.
I also want to add that if you read into the scene and the scene that follows, it's very easy to see that Vader genuinely fears Palpatine. Listen to what he says here.
You don't know the power of the dark side. I must obey my master.
Doesn't that sound like he's saying he doesn't have a choice? It's like, Luke, you don't understand. The dark side is up. If I try to come back to the light, the Emperor is going to kill me. I don't have a choice but to obey. With how catastrophically Palpatine has destroyed Vader, there's plenty of reasons for Vader to fear him. And we all know the dark side mantra. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Pretty much spot on describes Anakin Skywalker's downfall. More evidence of his fear can be found in the next scene. While the Emperor is giving Luke what's essentially a sales pitch for the dark side, Luke just keeps shutting him down. Palpatine starts to walk away, and Vader says,
"It is pointless to resist, my son."
If you wanted, you might interpret this as Vader also trying to scare Luke into giving in, but to me, it sounds like a warning. Because of their conversation on Endor, Vader knows that Luke genuinely cares about him, which is something he hasn't experienced since he was Anakin Skywalker. He doesn't want what he thinks is his only child and the only person in the galaxy who cares about him to go through the suffering that he went through at the hands of Palpatine. But since Luke refuses to give in, Vader is forced to engage in a lightsaber battle with him, during which Luke says he can sense the conflict within him.
Your thoughts betray you, Father. I feel the good in you, the conflict
fight.
The two go back and forth, neither one really gaining the advantage over the other until this moment here, which is actually the moment that I wanted to discuss most of all, because it's at this point that Luke gets the upper hand and Vader seems to realize he's made a horrible mistake. Luke is hiding from Vader, and Vader is reaching out with the Force to sense his son's emotions and saying things to get under his skin. While searching through Luke's thoughts and fears, Vader learns he has another child, Luke's twin sister, and threatens to bring her to the dark side too. This is what pushes Luke over the edge, gets him to embrace his anger, and ultimately defeat Darth Vader. But I want to bring attention to the fact that Vader hardly swings at Luke during this part of the duel. He's mostly playing defense until Luke overwhelms him. Why would this be the case? Yes, Luke is angry and on the offensive, but Vader is far more powerful and more experienced than him. Are you telling me that all Luke needed was a year of formal training and to get angry to defeat Darth Vader? Or is there something else playing a role here? And if so, then what? Here's what I'm proposing. Just before the attack, Vader learns that Luke has a sister from reading his thoughts.
You have a twin sister.
What if it was at this point that Vader learned the identity of Luke's sister and his daughter was Princess Leia? If he saw Leia's face in Luke's mind, he would know that he personally tortured his own daughter. I don't know about you guys, but to me, that realization sounds like it would be pretty distracting. His mind suddenly being on that subject would explain why he has a delayed reaction to Luke's battle cry and why he remains on the defensive for the rest of the duel. Not to mention, it would add another reason why he intervened in Luke's torture by the Emperor, not that he needed one. There is, of course, the possibility that I'm reading way too much into this scene, but if you rewatch the movie with this theory in mind, I guarantee you'll see where I'm coming from. Between the re-emerging of Anakin's identity on Cloud City, Luke pleading with him to come back to the light, and the realization he caused pain to his one and only daughter, much like his wife, it would make sense for Vader to not give it his all during the final duel and let Luke defeat him. So now I want to know, what do you guys think of this theory? If you enjoyed it, make sure you force push that like button, share this video with a Star Wars loving friend or two, and subscribe for weekly content just like this. I've also got the links to my social media accounts in the description down below. That's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you give those a follow if you want to know what I'm up to in between videos and for the spiciest of Star Wars memes. Thank you all so much for watching. In case you forgot, my name is Jon Solo. May the Force be with you, and remember, Jon shot first.